So let's talk about why the whole more followers equals more dollars philosophy is totally wrong. So listen, that whole more followers equals more dollars philosophy, is that actually true? Well, I was doing research for this very content series. It's a new 3-part series called the Profitable Content Series. I'd love for you to check it out. We'll have all the things below, but I don't want to name names. And I bumped into this headline that said more followers equals more dollars. And I immediately screenshot it, sent it to our team and said, at team, this is the crap out there from our competitors that makes me furious. And it's true. It makes my blood boil because so many people out there, so many so-called experts are constantly telling people, hey, you need to chase after more followers. You need to have, more likes, more engagement. And the reality is that more followers don't automatically mean more dollars. They should, they could, but they rarely actually do. And if you've fallen for this trap before and this myth, I don't want you to feel any kind of shame because I have absolutely been there. I remember years ago when I was in my social media manager era over 10 years ago, I had this invisible milestone. I thought, when I get 10,000 followers, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to have tons of clients. I'm going to have viral posts, floods of engagement. My DMs are going to be popping. I won't have to worry about where my next client is going to come from. And so I worked really, really hard to hit that milestone and also help my clients get to that milestone, thinking the whole time, surely this will be the thing that is going to put me on the map. I'm going to get more leads. Clients will be lining up to work with me. And sadly, that did not happen. The 10,000 milestone, follower milestone, it came and went. And my bank account didn't even feel the difference. Don't get me wrong though, my ego absolutely loved it. Who does not love a shiny follower count? But if I was being honest with myself, I had to admit that was a ton of work. I was feeding the algorithm what it wanted and spending hours coming up with a single Instagram post, making sure that everything in my content was aesthetic and perfectly curated. And it did not, at the end of the day, move the needle like I thought it would. It took me a really long time, in all honesty, to admit it. But I kind of felt like I had been sent astray, kind of betrayed, because I'd been sold this idea that if I got to this follower count, that was the promised land. You know what I'm saying? That was the arrival. And I kept thinking in the back of my mind, why am I putting this level of energy and effort into my content? Isn't the whole point of marketing to attract more buyers, not just more followers? I mean, I love that I have this shiny follower list, but it's not really building the kind of momentum that I expected it to. And then I also felt stuck, I had to continue feeding the algorithm in order for more people to discover me. And then, I would lose followers and gain followers. And it was just so overwhelming. And it's the story that I hear over and over and over again from clients, from, people who subscribe to our email list that write us back, from people in the chat. They're tired. I think we're all collectively tired of chasing after vanity metrics that don't move the needle in our businesses. And I think finally we've awoken from this matrix essentially that we've all been kind of under the spell of thinking that more followers equal more dollars. And that's not the reality. I remember in that season, in that time frame, thinking okay, I need to justify this energy and this effort. I love having so many followers, but content is vanity if it doesn't make you sales. And I was blessed because I had built our first local business and grown that to 7 figures, multiple 7 figures later on. It was at the time 6 figures with content. And so the business owner inside of me kept pushing back because the creative and the artist side of me was I love doing this. It's fun. It's pretty. It makes me feel excited. It gives me that dopamine hit when I post an episode or I post, a new content piece and people like it and they comment and stuff like that. I love that feeling. But the reality is it needed to actually move the needle. I needed to have a real business. I could not just get stuck on this whole vanity thing of just, feeling the pressure of like looking big online, instead of focusing on creating content that would actually speak to my ideal client and invest that time and energy in building something real, something profitable, something that, I had receipts for, like cold hard cash status, even if that meant having my audience be a little bit smaller and have all my competitors, preach and teach the exact opposite of what I was sharing. And so back then, as a social media manager, someone in the industry, that was a lot. Like I felt a lot of pressure to keep growing and growing and growing. But at the end of the day, it came back to, what am I doing this for? It came back to purpose. I had to make a choice at that point. Was I going to continue to just follow the vanity metrics for the sake of doing that? Or was I going to focus on actually building a business? Was I going to focus on actually, creating something real rather than looking like I was successful? Was I going to be actually successful? And real talk, that was hard. I wanted the clout. Like my ego wanted for people to see my follower count and my engagement and my pretty aesthetic posts and think like, she's made it. She's good, I knew people were also going to judge me if I chose the other side of things, where it was like, I don't have a ton of followers, so how am I making so much money? Is she actually saying that, is she being honest? But ultimately, I think it really boiled down to values and my faith. Like I remember knowing deep down that God was not calling me to chase vanity metrics. He wasn't calling me to chase a follower count. He wasn't calling me to be famous on the internet. He was calling me to something much, much bigger. And if I had given in to the follower game, I'd be spending all of my energy and time pleasing the algorithm, not fulfilling my purpose. And that's a reality. If you want to grow and you want to grow quickly and you want to have big numbers, focus on the algorithm. Focus on giving Facebook what they want, Instagram what they want, YouTube what they want, X what they want, and that will be your full-time job. Understand that the trade-off, as someone who does content and does it for a living and has done it for more than a decade now, this is my second company that I've built on content marketing. It's a lot of time and energy. The reason you're exhausted, the reason why, you guys are writing me, telling me oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, is because it's a lot. There's definitely tricks and strategies to make it easier. I have an entire course on that in Content Calendar System, and I'll be the first one to tell you absolutely. I benefit a lot by telling you, chase the follower game, post more content, because my products sell you on that. But the reality is, yes, that's important and it's helpful, but it's not the thing. You know what I mean? I would much rather tell you, let's figure out a way in which you are actually making an impact. Let's figure out a way in which your content is turning into customers. Let's figure out a way in which you're actually being profitable, not just popular. And so for me, I had to make up my mind then and there and say no thanks to the vanity metrics. No thanks to chasing the algorithm. No thanks for dancing and pointing and doing all the things that make you look famous on the internet, right? Thirst pictures, revealing stuff, inappropriate stuff. No, thank you. Instead, I had to say yes to creating content that would speak to my audience and that would not just make me look popular, but actually help me be profitable. Content that made my ideal client say, this was for me. Oh my gosh, how can I get more of that? How can I hire you? How can I join a course, get into coaching, et cetera, et cetera. And guys, it was a really hard decision. But to be honest, fast forward 10 years and we've served 33,181. I literally pulled up the number just for this video to see where we're at. We've served 33,181 small business owners. We built 2 7-figure businesses before I even turned 30. And I have never looked back. It was the best decision that I have ever made. Now, that being said, I want to be super clear. I am not saying that you should never want more followers or to grow your audience or to grow your impact or to grow your influence. And I'm certainly not saying that social media is a waste of your time and you shouldn't be creating content that actually helps you get seen. That's not what I'm saying. But What I am saying, is that you need to be way more intentional with how you're spending time and the places that you're investing to grow your business. Followers aren't a bad thing. They're actually a great thing. That's how you get more exposure. That's how you meet your potential ideal clients. But more followers does not automatically equal more dollars. That is a straight up lie. There's just no way around it. I'll link another article by Sprout Social talking about how relationship is the biggest predictor of ROI. If you have not necessarily, followers, but what is your engagement like? How are you building deep connections? And do you have the right people who are actually following your social media accounts? I would love for you to get to 10,000, 100,000, even 1,000,000 quality followers who actually want to buy from you. But that's the key word. It's quality over quantity. That's what business is about. And so you don't have to have an artificial follower count in mind to grow a wildly profitable business. And after coaching tens of thousands of small business owners and entrepreneurs over the last decade plus, I know that firsthand, most of you watching this, you don't have a ton of time. You don't have a ton of energy. You're like riding solo. You're building this thing on your own. You might not have a team or even a big team at that. Maybe you have a VA or a couple people who subcontract for you. But that means that your time and your energy, they're limited and they are precious. So you need to choose in investing, that energy and that resource that you do have in cultivating an audience of people who are your ideal buyers, attracting people who actually want to do business with you instead of just freebie seekers who want entertainment. And so the choices of content that you put out, they're like little signals. They're signals that either attract or repel someone. And what's interesting is in this time and era, people are more sensitive to those signals than ever before. I've noticed that over the last 2 years. I've talked about my faith here and there. I've made, maybe 1 or 2 dedicated videos along everything else I've talked about. If you look at the percentage, maybe like 2% of my content talks explicitly about faith. And yet, because we're so sensitive to messaging, we have almost overhauled our business completely, where we have so many faith-based people who are flocking to our products, flocking to our programs. It's been an amazing blessing. It's incredible what happens when you put out the right signal. And so I want to lead that into that first point of this is what you do instead. I know we went long with me explaining to you why followers versus, dollars is not necessarily correlated, but this is what you do instead. Number 1, you message correctly. There has never been a time where messaging is more important than now. We're in a cultural moment where people are very sensitive to messaging. And so use it to your advantage. How you talk to your ideal clients, what you put out in your content pieces is really important. Messaging, making sure you're speaking to your ideal client in the way that they can resonate, they will find you. They will share it with other people who will find you. It's incredible what messaging can do. And so that's number 1. If you want to start creating content that actually attracts buyers and attracts your ideal clients, message correctly. Sometimes, and I see this all the time in coaching, we'll have messaging, especially let's say that you're a service provider. We work with a lot of service providers, and they're putting out a lot of freebie content, which is important. You want to educate your audience. That's awesome. But they're inundating their feed with noise. They're inundating their feed with information. And we're in a cultural moment, but also a stage in an era in online business where you need to be providing people with answers, not just more information. We're competing against AI. There's a ton of content that's being generated by artificial intelligence. And so the currency of relationship, the currency of human connection, the currency of giving people answers instead of information is huge. And that's point number 2. You really need to focus on how do you speak to someone in your audience? How do you pull them out and build content connection points? By the way, if you haven't watched that video here on our YouTube channel, is really, really helpful. It'll show you what are the 3 ways in which you can message your content and build connection points with your ideal clients so that you're calling them up. I love that idea. Okay, so you got one, you're going to attract more of those buyers by messaging. Number two, you're also going to really focus on building this idea of answers instead of information. And number three, this is probably one of the most important. You want to build real human relationships. How do you build real human relationships? You encourage interaction. You have a clear call to action in your posts that encourage people to comment, to message you back, to ask you questions via DMs. One of the strategies we're using right now is texting. We're using a lot of texting in addition to email marketing. In fact, Chris was hosting a coaching session with me. I think it was yesterday or the day before. And he was talking about how, email and SMS, they're like the spaghetti and meatballs of online marketing. And I absolutely agree. So one of the ways that I'm doing this is I'm actually encouraging people to text me back instead of just texting them a link with an episode or with a content piece. I encourage them to text me back a keyword, and then I will have an automated delivery follow-up text message. It's like, hey, I'm so glad you requested this resource. Here's the link to consume it. And then I end with a question. Have a question about this topic? Text me back. And so opening up those like gateways or those channels of communication with your audience is so important. Having a call to action at the end of your emails. Have a question about this topic? Email me back. Build relationships. When you take the time to answer people's questions and you give them the space to ask those questions, it builds so much clout and so much trust. It's a game-changing strategy, especially if you're a course creator or you're a service provider. So those are 3 ways in which you can ditch the craze of chasing more followers and instead start attracting more buyers with your content today. Listen, if you enjoyed this episode, it's just the first one in the series. In the next episode, I'm going to answer some of your most pressing content creation questions, and we're going to talk about the profitable content game plan. There's also going to be an awesome lead magnet freebie that you're going to be able to download. It's basically a blueprint of how to set up an amazing content creation strategy that is profitable, not just attracting a bunch of new people just for the sake of making you popular, but actually making sure that you are creating content that moves the needle in your business and affects your bottom line. Now, if you don't want to miss out on the series and you want access to expanded episodes over on the podcast, you can text the word POD, that's pod, to the number on screen, and my team will automatically send you the first episode in this series. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be awesome. And for those of you who are international, we can only text everyone in the US right now. We're working on it. But if you're international, there's going to be a link in the description below where you can actually opt into our email list and get first dibs on this amazing content series. You're not going to want to miss it. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Un beso. Bye for now. And hey, if you're wondering how you can work with us to take your content marketing or your business to the next level, here are 3 ways that you can get started. Number 1, make sure to download our success path. It's completely free and it'll give you the 6 stages of online business success. From validating your business all the way through scale, we're going to give you a detailed overview of what particular strategies you need to be deploying, but also, just as importantly, what areas you should leave for the next stage, you should not be worrying about. Now, it's not a comprehensive list, but it definitely is going to get you started on the right track. Number 2, come over to Content Calendar System 2.0 and check it out. Not only is it our most popular product, it's going to give you everything that you need to know about content creation that's efficient and will save you a ridiculous amount of time from the lens of profitability, because we don't want to just create content for the sake of creating content. We want to do it for a purpose and we want to get results. Number 3, come join us inside the Business Lounge. It's our premier signature program where I teach my very best work around marketing in general. From developing your business idea to crafting amazing emails and blogs, podcasts and video, social media content, as well as designing funnels and creating webinars and selling via Facebook ads. All of that training is jam-packed inside the Business Lounge. Not just that, but you're also going to get monthly coaching calls with me and my co-pilot Chris, where you get to ask us questions, we review your sales strategies and your sales funnels, and we give you feedback in real time. You're also going to have access to our private forum, where you can connect with thousands of other online entrepreneurs who are just where you're at right now. And you're going to be able to feel that sense of community and get feedback from those people in real time as well. All the information will be linked in the description box below, and I will see you in the next episode. Un beso. Bye for now.